Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning for our Women's Health webinar. My name is Amy Govender. I'm the Consulting Manager at NMG Benefits. We'd like to welcome today's speaker, Dr. Kylie Montgomery, a renowned nutrition and wellness expert who's dedicated to helping individuals and organizations achieve optimal health and well-being. Dr. Montgomery is a licensed registered homeopath and nutritionist with over 20 years of experience in the fields of health and wellness. Dr. Montgomery has helped numerous individuals, organizations, NGOs, and government agencies improve their overall health, productivity, and performance. So we're very delighted to introduce you to her this morning. Welcome, Dr. Kylie. Thank you for being with us. And I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's really exciting to be here. I'm very passionate about this subject. I think as a cancer survivor myself, and also as someone who's recently gone through menopause, I feel quite like privileged to be able to share the knowledge with everyone else and let my journey help others, because I realized even with the menopause thing, to navigate it without resources or knowing where to go is quite a daunting experience. And I've given so many talks on menopause, but when you go through it yourself, it's a completely different ball game. And I realize when you're trying to access resources, if I didn't have the knowledge I have of the medical field, I'd be very lost. So that's why I'm passionate about the education side of it. And I know women's health, there's so much we can cover. So today we're going to try and cover a lot. But if you want any more details, Monet and the team have my email address. I'll put it in the chat box at the end. So if you want some extra info, you're more than welcome to contact me. A big part of what I do is trying to, assist you on your journey to better health. So without further ado, some of our top issues affecting women in South Africa, and a lot of this, by the way, is linked with stress. So we're finding that a lot of early menopause due to stress, cancer due to stress, endometriosis, we know, is made worse by stress, cholesterol, blood pressure, all made worse. So polycystic ovaries also are aggravated by stress. So we definitely need to get a handle on, our mental health as well, because it is impacting our physical health. So when we look at, all the gynecological things affecting us, endometriosis, which leads to infertility, fibroids, cancers, HIV and AIDS is still affecting women tremendously in our country, which is quite sad considering that there's been so much education towards preventing it. But we do have a lot of gender-based violence in our country, and therefore we are getting the rise of HIV from violent crimes and rape. So that is still a problem. Polycystic ovaries, very big problem with a lot of women, made worse by stress. Sexually transmitted diseases. We think these days, and quite funny, a lot in menopausal women, because the uterine lining is so thin, makes you more prone to a sexually, transmitted disease, bladder infections, etc. Cancer, a big one, breast cancer, #1 killer of women in South Africa. Sexually transmitted diseases, again, unplanned pregnancies, okay, where we have all the resources to keep ourselves, from falling pregnant without wanting to, but we're not utilizing them. So there are a lot of issues affecting us. I'm going to touch on the ones that I've seen in practice are affecting us the most. So cancer we'll start with. Now, with women, our cancers are very linked with our gynecological system. Okay, so the top 5 cancers are actually to do with our gynecological system, and #1 is breast cancer. So breast cancer, cervical cancer, the top 2 cancers affecting women. Because we need to cover a lot today, we won't go into details of the others, but please understand that with cervical cancer, all the signs and symptoms of cervical cancer are the same as the signs and symptoms of any other gynecological cancer. So whether it's like cervical cancer, uterine cancer, vulvar cancer, or vaginal cancer, they are all the same symptoms. So if you are getting those symptoms, you need to check them out, okay? I always say to people, the reason I survived cancer is because I was very in touch with my body. I knew when things were different and things had changed in my body, and I got it checked out. And that's what I say to people. You have to know your own body because we're all different. Take, for instance, how often you go to the bathroom, okay? So you can have someone who goes to the toilet 3 times a day, and you only go once every 2 days. Now, once every 2 days is normal for you, okay? 3 times a day is normal for them. But if they suddenly start going once every 2 days, or you start going 3 times a day, it's different to your normal. Something has changed. You need to check it out. It's the same with a mole. If it's like the same and it's been the same for years, fine. The minute it starts to change, the minute it gets itchy, it starts to bleed, it changes color, it changes shape. It's a problem. So if you know what your natural state is, you will know when things have changed. Even a smoker coughs all the time, okay? We know that smokers cough. But when it turns into a cancerous cough or a TB cough, it has a different sound. There are different like symptoms that go with it. There may be coughing up of blood, which there never was. So even if it's a normal symptom like coughing, but that cough has changed, you need to get it checked out, okay? So with breast cancer, and what upsets me with this is it's still one of the biggest killers of women worldwide. And the sad thing is we can prevent it, okay? Our breasts are right here. They're in front of us, okay? They are easily accessible. It's not like your bowel where you can't see what's going on inside and you can't check without a gastroscope and a colonoscopy. Our breasts are right here. Why are we not doing our breast exams monthly? Okay. It takes 2 minutes. It really isn't hard to, do a breast check and see if there's a lump. In fact, I had a friend in the healthcare profession of all things who I was actually having lunch with her the one day and she kept like wiggling, moving her bra strap. I'm like, what's going on? Why do you look like you've got ants in your bra, so to speak? And she says to me, I don't know, I just like have this uncomfortable like bump under my arm. And I said to her, please, can you just go and get it checked out? And she said to me, no, I've been under a lot of stress. I've been eating poorly. I'm sure it's just my lymph are inflamed from poor eating. And I said to her, please, can you just get it checked out? And then we were both busy, sort of lost touch and caught up like 9 or 10 months later. And when I spoke to her, she says, no, she actually is in stage 3 breast cancer. I said, oh my gosh, when you went and got it checked those months ago, like, was it that far gone? She said, no, I only had it checked last week. So if we had caught it when it was only in the lymph, when the lymph had started to swell, she probably was only stage 1, but she left it too long till it actually spread. So the funny thing with our lymph will give us an idea whenever anything's wrong. Even if you work your legs hard at gym or you go for a long run, your groin lymph actually swell and hurt. Those little lymph glands that are underneath your jaw, you can feel them. They feel like little smooth pebbles if you rub them. When you've got a sore throat, they get sore, they inflame and they get sore. It's telling you there's something wrong. So often, before we even get a lump of breast cancer, there's a lymph chain underneath our arms here that run on the side of the breast. They swell first. And often the first sign something's wrong in your breast is painful lymph glands underneath the armpit. So that's why when we do a breast exam, we have to include that area because it can be the first place that there's swelling, okay? And when you are looking anywhere in your body for a cancer lump, it will feel rough. So a normal lump or a non-cancerous lump or a stage 0 cancer will feel like your lymph nodes, nice and smooth like a pebble under the surface, okay? It will move around, it will be mobile, it will have smooth surfaces. A cancerous lump starts to attach itself to the underground tissue. It sends out little like tendrils into your system to attach. So it's no longer mobile, it's no longer smooth. So even like a freckle that becomes cancerous will start to look like the edges are jagged. That is a cancerous lump, okay? It needs to be looked at. But if we catch it when it's still that smooth mobile lump, that is a stage 0 cancer. It has just started. You catch it there, you have a much better chance of survival. So that is where I caught my cancer. I was a big runner. I started to get like lower back pain, different to the normal back pain I had. And eventually we found the lump just next to my spine. So, and it hadn't attached to the spine, it hadn't attached to the bladder, it was still like free floating, so to speak. That is why we caught it earlier and I had a much better prognosis. The doctors did say when they removed it, it was actually a very aggressive form of cancer. If we had left it within 6 months, it would have been into my spine and probably within a year in my brain, and I wouldn't have survived a year. So you catch it early, you will sit here talking to others. You catch it late, unfortunately, we have a much harder road ahead of us. So when we do a breast check, what you need to do, start in the mirror, okay? It's what you can see first. Look at your breasts. If one is bigger than the other. Now, every woman, one breast is bigger than the other, okay? But when it's significantly larger or it's different to normal, we need to check it out. Also check, is there any discharge from the nipple? If you are not breastfeeding, there should never be discharge from the nipple. So it doesn't matter if it's clear, if it's bloody, if it's milky, or if it's pussy. There is a problem, okay? It may not be cancer, it may be mastitis, which is infection of the breast tissue, but you still need to get it checked out, okay? Look at your nipple or look at your breasts also. Is there dimpling anywhere? Has the nipple retracted? Because if the cancer lump is underneath the nipple, as I said, it attaches to the underlying tissue and it pulls it into it. So it will retract the like tissue around it. So if you've got larger breasts, lean forward in front of a mirror and you'll see a dimpling effect if there is a lump underneath, or the retracted nipple. Just depends where the lump is, okay? We also need to see, is there redness anywhere? Is there a change in the skin? So is there a patch of dryness or scaliness? Because the cancer cells steal the nutrition from the rest of your body. So underneath the skin where they are, the skin starts to get flaky, dry, itchy. I had it actually on my nose here, a patch that just kept peeling as though it was sunburnt. When they looked at it, it was a cancer spot that they cut out. So be aware of that. And then when we do our breast exam, the best way is to lift your arm up like this so it opens up the breast tissue. You can do it on the bed as well. Start from under the armpit so you don't forget it and move in concentric circles towards the nipple. When we do it, it's got to be like a scooping, cupping motion like this. You don't poke at it. So think about this. If you had a stage 0 cancer with a mobile lump, and you've got a marble underneath the carpet and you poke at it like this, the little marble's going to move in front of your fingers. You're not going to feel it, okay? But if you cup it like this, you'll capture that lump. So always do a scooping motion when you do your breast exam. The second most common cancer, cervical. So this is the one that we get the HPV vaccine for. Now, very interesting because I've learned a lot about this in the last little while. We always think HPV is a sexually transmitted disease. It is sexually transmitted, but actually every single woman who has ever had intercourse, there is a 95% chance you have HPV. Most of us walking around, 95% of us have HPV. There are 100 different strains, over 100 different strains, causing different things. There are ones that are the HPV 16 and 18 are the ones that put you at risk for cancer. But there are ones that are the genital wart ones. There are ones that are just normal. And most women in their 20s to 30s have a very high immune system, and that HPV will pass out of their system and you won't even have any symptoms or side effects. However, if your immune system is compromised, HPV 16 and 18, if they're on your system, can lead to cervical cancer. That's why we do the HPV vaccine. Now, It's not just for young girls, okay? I recently, when I did my pap smear, it came back with abnormal cells. We thought maybe it's just menopausal cells. They sent it off for an HPV test, came back with HPV 18. Unfortunately, the high risk one for cancer. So I will have to now, I'm going in 2 weeks' time to have a partial hysterectomy to take out those cells. But that's because when I was younger and had previous cancer, if I had been exposed to that HPV, I wasn't able to naturally remove it. Okay. So I believe we should all have the HPV vaccine. It's a 3-course dose. You have one, 2 months later, the next one, 4 months later, the next one. Okay. Just to protect ourselves, especially when you're menopausal, you have a thinner lining. If there's any HPV in your system, it is, and I have my pap smears every 2 years and they've always been normal. But that HPV, the doctor said, could have been in my system from my 20s. It could have even been passed on from my parents. So sadly, when I was in varsity, a friend of mine came back with a HPV in her pap smear and broke up with her boyfriend. She blamed him for it. We are only now realizing that is not the case. It is often in our system already, either from our parents or from previous relationships. And you could have had a normal, clear pap and then one that comes back abnormal years later. So please don't think automatically if you have a pap smear and get HPV positive result, it means your partner's cheating. Okay, you need to understand that's not the case. Okay, and it has caused a lot of distraction. The gynaes are working very hard to try and change that mindset. Also, when you go for a pap, ask them to please do a pap and test for HPV. It's not standard. They only usually test for HPV if there are abnormal cells. But if they do a pap and test for HPV, you then only have to have a pap every 5 years as opposed to every 2. Okay, so it's usually cervical cancer is linked to HPV somehow in most cases. So if you are clear with HPV, you usually only have to have a pap every 5 years. So this was something interesting I learned that I thought I should pass on. Okay. With cervical cancer, so this is the lower part of our womb, okay? And it definitely, you see, even on this, it says a sexually transmitted infection, but it's not only sexually transmitted, okay? And it doesn't mean if you only tested positive for it now in your 40s that you couldn't have got it in your like 20s. The thing is, they don't test for it routinely in a pap, okay? So that's why it's always good for you to ask for them to do that, okay? Now, the signs of any like gynecological cancer will be these, okay? So it could be cervical, uterine, it could be vaginal. These symptoms will be there. Bleeding when there shouldn't be bleeding. So anywhere where there's bleeding in your body, there shouldn't be, there's a problem. So if you're coughing up blood, if you're urinating and there's blood, if there's blood when there shouldn't be, there's a problem. So bleeding between periods, bleeding during or after sex, anytime after menopause, discomfort during sex, okay? A vaginal discharge that smells unpleasant. So this is what always bothers me is these lovely jokes that men like to tell, like, oh, like we smelt the ladies a mile off, okay? It is not meant to smell bad. If it smells bad, something's wrong, and it's not always a hygiene thing, okay? So there's a very nasty little virus that lives on toilet seats called Trichomonas vaginalis. It's very common. Most women in their lives will get it at some point. This is the one that causes that terrible fishy smell. Okay, but because we're so embarrassed to talk about it, women will never talk about these things. We keep it to ourselves. We think it's a hygiene thing. We wash more. We use fragrant panty liners, and we suffer in silence. When it's such an easy treatable one, you go to Dischem, you say you've got the bacterial infection. It's a cream that you insert for 5 days and it's gone, okay? So you've got the cream that you do for thrush, the canestin. It's not thrush because thrush is a yeast infection and thrush always has that cottage cheese discharge, okay? It's not thrush. This has hardly any discharge. It's a very thin discharge that's clear. It smells really bad, especially when you exercise or have intercourse. But it's treated the same way, also with an internal cream 5 days it's gone. So please don't like sit there and suffer in silence. Please get that treated, okay? But other like unpleasant smelling ones are usually a sign of infection. So get it checked, okay? And usually there may be an achy pain between the pelvic bones. So these are just, most of the cancers will have those symptoms. Please, as women, don't put it off. Don't say we don't have time to go to the doctor and get it checked. Do your PAPs every 2 or 5 years if you've had the HPV test done. Please check, okay? Because cervical cancer and endometrial cancer are slow growing cancers. If you catch them early, you have a really good chance of survival. When I was working at Hillbrow Hospital when it was still open, we had a lady come in because she couldn't urinate, okay? When we checked, her endometrial cancer had grown down so far it was now blocking the urethra. Now the cancer was everywhere. It was in her bladder, it was in her bowel, everything that the uterus had touched was now infected. And we could have cured it if she'd come in. And we said, didn't you have symptoms? Didn't you have any of these symptoms that we just explained? That she's like, yeah, but I didn't have time to come to the doctor. So instead, we had to watch her die. Please don't do that, okay? If it was our children, if it was our partners, we would have them in at the doctors. Why do we not do it for ourselves? Take the time to look after yourself. You can't look after anyone if you yourself are ill, okay? So then treatments, they're different ones depending, like with me, I just had radiation and surgery. The further along you go, the worse the treatment. So like in stage 3, 4, 5, we end up with the chemos. And then it's almost like we're putting a poison into your body to see who's stronger, the cancer or you, okay? So please, there's a lot of new treatments. There's the radiation chemo targeted therapy where it's specifically for that cancer, hormone therapy. So like if it's an estrogen dependent, we deprive it of the estrogen. So there's immunotherapy to boost your immune system to fight it off. So different ones, depending on your age, depending on the kind of cancer, depending on your level of strength, and also depending on, costs, there are different treatments available. So let's talk a little about endometriosis, because this does affect a lot of women, especially we're seeing more because of cancer. So this is where the tissue inside your uterus starts to grow elsewhere. Okay, so you end up with very heavy periods, lots of pain, lots of cramping. It's very uncomfortable. It can lead to scarring, which causes, and also all of this overgrowth starts to cause the pelvic organs to stick together. It can cause severe pain, severe bleeding, and can ultimately lead to infertility. We have noticed sometimes women go on the pill, it makes it a bit better. But to find the right treatment is quite hard, and it is often linked with stress. We find type A personalities are quite harder to deal with. Okay, I did see that there's a very nice question here. I like to answer questions during, because sometimes I don't want you sitting through a whole presentation and your question isn't answered. So what is mastitis and what is the treatment guidance? So mastitis is an infection of the breast, so to speak. What its symptoms are, you get a really hot breast, it's really painful, it's uncomfortable. It's usually one-sided, but it can be both sides. This is where, let's say you did a running race and your bra or your gym top chafed the nipples. You can sometimes get an infection that gets in through the nipple. You can have a bite on your breast that causes a mastitis. Usually what they will do, there's an antibiotic you'll usually take. It usually can help lower it. I don't know if that's my phone, because it should be on. No, it's not mine, it's on silent. Usually with a mastitis, you will get an antibiotic, which helps a lot with it. In order to get relief, you can put warm compresses. So like a hot towel you can put over your breast, or a bean bag. It does help a lot with that. That really does ease it a bit. There are also gels that you can put on that assist. Best thing to do, try and support your breasts with a bra that isn't going to squeeze them or hurt them, or alternatively, don't wear a bra for that time. but the antibiotic does help quite well with it. So thank you so much for that question. I always like to, answer them when we can, okay? Let me just go out of this question and answer, which I don't. Okay, so what is endometriosis? As I was saying, it's quite a complicated issue. It can lead to infertility. The doctors will often say to someone who's got it that you should have a period. I mean, you should have your children early. So because of that, you know, risk of not being able to fall pregnant. And sometimes being pregnant can help the endometriosis, okay? So that is something we need to deal with. That we are seeing it's a problem at the moment. Okay, good question. Is there HPV vaccine once off, or should it be taken annually? It's usually once off. So it's almost like our TB vaccine we have as a child. Once off, it tends to protect you for life, okay? Can you take the HPV vaccine while you're trying to conceive? Yes, you can, and I would suggest that you do, because if you have got HPV in your system, it's going to be much harder to fall pregnant. Also, if you've got HPV in your system and you fall pregnant, you will pass it on to your child, okay? So your child may not have any symptoms until later in life. So like I said before, people blame it on a partner who was unfaithful, but actually it could have come from your, parents. So very good questions, guys. Thank you so much. And then let me go to the next slide. Okay, so the symptoms. These are all the different symptoms, the painful periods, just want to close this chat box. I don't know why it won't go away. Okay. Just going to put it on the side. Okay, so painful periods. So you get people with endometriosis really suffer with their periods, pain during intercourse, pain even with your bowel movements or urination, because the endometriosis starts to cause like scar tissue and starts to make the organs stick together. It can cause really painful like urination and bowel movements, excessive bleeding. So there's a lot of things that go with it, okay? And often it can complicate the diagnosis because it looks like other things, irritable bowel syndrome, ovarian cysts. So you do need to get it checked out and see if we can get some sort of relief, find a treatment program that works for you, okay? I don't want to go into all the causes because we don't have a lot of time and there's a lot to cover. But these are things that may put you at greater risk. Funny enough, these are the same things that put you at higher risk for uterine cancer, by the way. Infertility, starting your period very early and then like going through menopause much later. So people who have a longer period of like menses in their life are more at risk for it. Shorter menstrual cycles, so like less than 25 days. So their period comes usually like every 21 days. So you have short periods between your cycles, heavy menstrual periods that are longer than 7 days, heavy loss of blood, okay? People who are like actually smaller tend to put you more at risk, and family members that got it. So there's definitely a hereditary link with it, okay? This now I want to talk about, this is one I'm quite passionate about, is women and our hormones, okay? Because they affect everything, okay? And there's jokes about it. Oh, my wife is like a psycho during PMS. But really, often our hormones can make us unable to function properly. There are women who suffer so badly from PMS, they could actually commit murder. There have been cases where women have done that, and actually because it makes them so out of themselves, they actually aren't capable of making reasonable decisions because the hormones are so out of whack. And it's not just the PMS ones, it's our thyroid, it's our insulin, which puts us at risk for diabetes. There's cortisol, which is the stress hormone. All of them can lead to lots of problems. So these are what we call the fabulous five. Cortisol, estrogen, insulin, progesterone, and testosterone. Of course, there are lots of other hormones, but these are the ones that cause a lot of problems, okay? And because they play such an integral role, just slight imbalances can cause headaches, terrible mood swings, weight gain, sweating, and like the thyroid, when the thyroid is out, you can be eating normally and suddenly gain all this weight, or you can suddenly become ravenously hungry and keep losing weight. So it's very important to know what's going on in our, system. So I just want to see there's one question, but it's not opening for me. How do they test for endometriosis? So actually, it's a very good question because the test for endometriosis is more like a test of exclusion. We first test, is it irritable bowel? All the other things, are there cysts? Are there polyps? And once we rule all that out, then we usually come to the diagnosis. They will also do a PAP. They can also do an endoscopy to look up and see if there is like uterine cells elsewhere. They can also do biopsies in outside of the uterus of the different like organs to see if there are endometrial cells elsewhere where they shouldn't be. So usually we'll start with the easier tests, which are the things like test for polyps, test for cysts, do a pap smear, check for irritable bowel, and then we'll go into biopsies in different areas. Thanks for the question. Keep them coming. Okay, so cortisol, it's basically the hormone, it's produced by our adrenal glands, okay? So it's like whenever we are adrenalized, so if we are stressed, our adrenal glands like put us into fight or flight. So even though it's not like, okay, there's a tiger attacking us, any kind of emotional stress will cause your adrenals to kick in and release cortisol and adrenaline. Okay. And that's why a lot of us are also in what we call adrenal fatigue these days, where you are burnt out. You've been under such chronic stress, your poor little adrenals are sending adrenaline, sending cortisol, that eventually you burn out. Okay. And we are seeing this quite a lot. Adrenal fatigue comes now with complete exhaustion. You wake up feeling tired. You just can't rouse yourself. You seem to be, nothing excites you. Everything is like chore. So, and that is often from long-term stress and adrenal fatigue. Okay. So we then also from that, the adrenals cause high cortisol levels. And with high cortisol levels, we start to see a deposition of fat around your stomach. Okay, so we start to get this little belly, even though we're still eating the same, everything's the same, but we do start to gain weight. So some of the symptoms of high cortisol, and this goes with like high stress levels, are a flushed round face, your face. So you know when you go on cortisone, the tablet, you get that puffy look to you. Same thing when your cortisols are high, puffy face, okay? Puffy around the waist as well. Your blood pressure goes up. So think about when you are in a stressed out state, the blood pressure rises. You get thirsty because just like your body thinks you're in fight or flight, so it needs liquid to run the marathon, so to speak, okay? Your menstruation can also be like irregular. So we've heard before that stress can cause infertility. Stress can cause you to not have a period. That's because the cortisol goes up and your body actually feels it's not healthy enough to carry a baby. So your body, when you are stressed, goes, this is not a safe environment to have a child. So it makes it impossible for you to fall pregnant because it affects your menses. So stress definitely can lead to infertility because of the high cortisol. It also makes you moody. You know, when you're stressed, you're like moody, you're snappy, you're irritable. That's because of cortisol. Muscle weakness, it also just makes you tired, it makes you flat, slows down your sex drive. We all know when we're stressed, you don't exactly feel like jumping anyone's bones. You sort of like just want to like just be left alone, okay? And weight gain, particularly around the stomach. Now, if your cortisol is too low, it's also a problem. It can cause the fatigue as well, also mood swings, but there you'll get weight loss, okay, as opposed to weight gain. I just want to see, I think we've got a question here, but I can't bring it across for whatever reason. I don't know why the questions have gone wonky. Sorry. Sorry, guys, my questions have got stuck in the corner. Can anyone see what the question is there and read it out to me?
Sure, Dr. Kali. The first question is, can you take the HPV vaccine in your late 40s?
Well, I've just had one done now. So I'm 47. I had mine done on Monday. Actually, my arm is still sore from it. So, yes, because HPV can be in your system, the thing is, in your 20s and 30s, so what you can do is go for a pap smear and ask them to test for HPV. If you don't have it, it's fine. And you're with a long-term partner, it's fine. Then you don't need to take it. But if you are like single and maybe seeing someone new, and especially in your late 40s when your endometrial lining is becoming thinner, you are more at risk for it if you hadn't cleared out your system as a youngster. So yes, definitely in your late 40s you can take it. I'm a perfect example. I took it just recently. And in your late 40s is when you are more at risk of getting cancers. So, definitely a good time to do it. We always think HPV is for young people, but it can be taken at any age. And if you haven't had it, I'd say take it anyway. There's no side effects. Just, look after yourself, get it, checked. And then the other one, there should be another question there, I
Yeah,
think.
great. Thanks, Dr. Kadi. The next question is, what happens if you have both the symptoms of high and low cortisol?
So the thing is, the symptoms can look the same. So it's very easy to get it tested. You go to Lancet, you do a blood test for cortisol, very easy to check if it's high or low. Because sometimes with a lot of conditions, the high levels will also, you have similar symptoms whether it's high or low. Even with estrogen, high and low estrogen can look the same. So the best thing is if you're seeing those symptoms, get it checked. Just do the blood test. It's actually not, it's one of the cheaper blood tests to do is the cortisol. Get it checked. It has to be done between 8 and 10 in the morning. And you just get it checked and it's really, then you know what's wrong. If the cortisol is very high, then it's good to get yourself onto something like DHEA, which you do need a script for, or 5-HTP, which you can get at Discam from the Solel range. They're the only one that make it. And something called methyl care, which basically just calms your nervous system down. It's like, it's all natural, but what it does when we're really highly stressed, we get what is called methylation, which starts to damage your cells. And those, like that methylation can lead to damage that can become cancerous. So methyl care is a really good product to get onto. So you can, just mitigate the stress levels, calm them down. It's almost like putting a warm, fuzzy blanket around someone who's shivering. That's what it does to your cortisol. It just calms it a little. And we do need to then understand we've got to get our stress levels a bit more under control, because if your cortisol is high, and sometimes you'll have people who are, you would never think they're a stressed person, and yet they internalize their stress. And those are the people whose cortisols are much higher. Usually the people who are volatile and shout and scream, they're actually releasing their cortisol, okay? It's the people who are silently stressing that are the problems. So cortisol can actually be released from exercise. Cortisol comes out in your sweat. So getting into a good exercise routine helps a lot. Eating foods that are the green leafy vegetables help also absorb cortisol. So they help also with the oxidative stress that happens to your cells. So the green leafy vegetables, the orange ones, very good for like calming the stress levels down and absorbing all the toxins that stress causes in your body. So those are things you can do. Having a good cry as well. I know it sounds funny, but cortisol comes out in your tears. So don't sit there, silent in your pain, cry it out. It definitely releases the cortisol. Okay. It's really, we are women, we are allowed to cry. Men are also, but they don't. But go speak to your girls, have a good cry, get the cortisol out. Okay. Those are ways of dealing with it. Thanks for that. Any other one?
Yes, Dr. Kali, there are some questions.
Okay.
Is it safe to have the HPV vaccine if you have already been diagnosed with it? And
Yes.
if you also have other chronic conditions such as diabetes or high blood pressure?
Okay, so the HPV vaccine is definitely not going to affect your blood pressure or cholesterol or diabetes. So it's perfectly safe to take with any other chronic illness. So I'll give myself as the perfect example. As I said, when I was diagnosed with full menopause, I went to my gynae just to do a general check like I do every 2 years. He did the PAP, it came back with HPV. Okay, so he said, go, he gave me the script. I went that day to get the vaccine. Okay, so I had HPV. You take the vaccine. Unfortunately, because the HPV had already now caused damage to my cervix, I do have to have that removed. But the thing is, the HPV vaccine will now prevent and destroy whatever HPV is in my system so that it can't happen again. So, yes, even if you've got HPV, you can like have the vaccine to it will kill it off. Okay, so yes, you definitely can. I've actually just gone through it myself this week, so I can with full confidence tell you you can. Okay, and no side effects. I mean, bit of a sore arm. It's quite a painful injection, but once you have it, just put ice on it. It definitely helps with the swelling and that. And I mean, it's not painful. It's just a little bit like feels a bit bruised. So awesome. Thank you for that question. Anyone else?
Yeah, there are a few questions. We're getting a lot of engagement, which is great.
Yeah, I prefer that. I mean, I think the questions actually cover the slides. So we're here to learn. So rather let's answer what the questions are.
Great. So the next question is, can you take the meds like methyl care while pregnant?
Yes, in fact, it's really good for while you're pregnant because it definitely, pregnancy also causes stress on the body in different ways. So the methyl care really helps with, and there's a lot, it will actually help you with, how you get preeclampsia and you get high blood pressure and diabetes during pregnancy. It's also linked with the stress. So the methyl care helps with that. So it is safe for pregnancy as well. You definitely can take that. The 5-HTP and the DHEA, not so much, but you can take a stress B complex as well if you are pregnant and feeling like your anxiety levels are a bit high. Stress B complex and methyl care, and even like rescue or something you can take while you're pregnant. Not St. John's wort, but you can take rescue.
Great. The next question is around antidepressants. Can antidepressants affect your cortisol levels? And will it affect your test results if you take the cortisol blood test?
So the antidepressants do have an effect on our entire system. And we have sometimes found that antidepressants, even though they're meant to calm you, they do have a negative impact on cortisol. That's why a lot of people on antidepressants do actually gain weight, which I always find that such a catch-22. It's like a lot of our women and our emotions and our stress and our happiness is linked with our weight. Then you go onto a tablet that makes you put on weight, which is devastating because it makes you more depressed. So I do think if you are on antidepressants that are putting weight on, it probably is affecting the cortisol to a certain extent. And maybe you should also speak to your doctor about alternatives. There are a lot more on the market now that don't have that impact. But it would be good just to check your cortisol if you are on antidepressants to see that it is staying under control. Because if it isn't, then maybe we look at just adding those extras to support that system a little. Because antidepressants deplete a lot out of your body as well. So you should rather also take a slow, like a magnesium supplement, a calcium supplement, because the antidepressants do leach that out of your body as well. So important to take, some supplementation around it as well. Thanks.
Thanks, Dr. Kali. And then one last question so far. Are there any health conditions that can be related to smelly urine for a person that's well
Yes.
hydrated?
Okay, so yes, there are. Funny enough, and it also depends on what you eat. So if you have a lot of food that's got sulfur in it, so onions, garlic, any of the sulfur, even alcohol, like wine, can cause like urine that's got a smelly, like that smells a bit. If you eat a lot of like green leafy vegetables, also there can be a smell. Things high in vitamin B. So if you take a vitamin B supplement, also can give it a different sort of smell. Also, omega-3 can give it a funny smell. And the other one that also is asparagus. So, and funny enough, you have to have the gene to be able to smell asparagus in your urine, okay? But like if you have that gene, it's like, whew, that urine smells terrible, and someone else will like, oh, it smells normal. But so certain foods do, and it can be completely healthy. It just depends on the smell. To me, it's like, look at the color. Okay, so if your urine is very dark, like it's almost like a dark yellow or almost brown, then you know that there's a problem, okay? If your urine is still lightish yellow or bright yellow, because that's usually with vitamin B, and then it'll be bright yellow, like luminous almost, then you know it's just a vitamin or a food thing. But if it's that deep dark color, it means then there's something, the kidneys are struggling a bit, and maybe we should like explore a little bit more. Thanks for that one. Good question. I always say to people, we should look at what goes into the toilet. It gives us a lot of information. So if you're bleeding, your urine is going to look like rust colored, okay? Like also sometimes browny. You may see blood in the urine. But if the urine is like getting dark yellow, you need to drink more. Once it's dark brown, it means your kidneys are under huge strain. We need to look and, adjust so we can fix it. Same as on the other side, if your stool is floating, it means there's too much fat in your diet. Your liver may not be working properly. Like if you battle to flush it down and keep popping up because it's floating, it's because there's too much fat in it. And that means the liver's not coping properly. Also, if it's very dark or almost black, it means there's bleeding high up in your blood, in your gastrointestinal tract. So let's say you've got erosive gastritis or a bleeding stomach ulcer high up. By the time everything's moved through, it's been discolored by the stomach acids. So it comes out, blood, which was red, comes out as black. You may also see like coffee grounds, that it looks like coffee grounds in your like stool. That's also blood that's from high up. If there's brighter red blood or reddish blood, it means the bleeding is lower down, okay? So, or hemorrhoids or something. So we can tell a lot about our health from what's in the loo, but we don't want to. So close our eyes and flush, But we definitely should look and see, because sometimes that's the first warning signs things are wrong. So, but don't worry too much about smelly urine. Just look at the color and see if the color is problematic. Then we need to investigate a bit further. Okay, next question. Is there anything else there?
Dr. Kali, would you like to continue with your presentation, or should we do more questions?
You know what? I think let's do the questions, because a lot of the questions are covering things that are coming up in the slides. And I always say, if people are in the session, they're wanting answers to their questions, and people learn from that. So I always think then it's more valuable than me just running through what I think you wanted to know. Let's talk about what you really do want to know. So I'm happy with answering the questions, because we are covering slides in the questions. So my later slides talk about the urine and the food. So I'm happy with that if you are.
Okay, perfect. So the next question is, if it's your first time doing a test for cancer, what is it that they really check? Is it for all types of cancer? And is it a specific test that we should be asking for?
Okay, so with cancer, you can't do a one test for all the cancers. That's the thing. There isn't one check for everything. Okay. So with the breast cancer, I mean, obviously we feel for the lump and that. So you do your breast scan. When it's like all the gynecological ones, you can usually pick up with a pap smear. Okay. So if we go to the gynae, they do the tests. So you have to go to your gynae. They will pick up all the gynecological things. If you've got signs and symptoms, like I spoke of before, the bleeding between periods, pain, go to your gynae, they will check for those ones. if you are finding you've got problems with your upper gastrointestinal tract, so like from your stomach, from your mouth to your stomach, what we do then is a gastroscope. And I always feel everyone should have a gastroscope and a colonoscopy once they reach the age of 35, okay? If it's normal, then you only go every 5 years. But if you are getting lots of heartburn, okay, if you are drinking Gaviscon like it's a cool drink, or popping Rainies like they are sweets, you need to do a gastroscope, because high levels of heartburn and that, or acid, can be an ulcer, it can be a hernia, it can be esophageal cancer. So the thing is, always good to check what it is. And a gastroscope, if there's a hernia or there's ulcers, they will give you medication to help with that. But chronic heartburn can lead to esophageal cancer. So for those upper gastrointestinal tract cancers, you do a gastroscope. For the lower intestinal cancers, you do a colonoscopy, where you have to go and have bowel prep, so it cleans out your whole system, and they put a probe up and a like camera, and they look at everything in your lower gastrointestinal tract, and they'll be able to pick up hemorrhoids, polyps, colitis, ulcerative colitis, and numerous other things, as well as if there's a cancerous growth. And I always say to people over 35, we need to check, okay? Because this part of our body, we can't see inside. We don't know what's going on. And the problem with bowel cancers is by the time they have symptoms, it's often in stage 4, okay? That's why we hear people saying, oh, shame, they went and they were diagnosed with bowel cancer or pancreatic cancer and they died 3 months later. Yes, because it's now not only bowel or pancreatic cancer, it's everywhere. Because by the time you have symptoms, by the time they come to the surface, there's a million other things going wrong. So sometimes we have to check early before we've even got symptoms to be safe, okay? The blood cancers, that you can do a blood draw for, like leukemias. You can also do a blood test, and if your white cell count is high, we know something's going on in your body. But that could be cancer, could be an infection, it can also be any system could be struggling with that. So there's no real one size fits all for cancers, okay? The men have to have their prostate tests done, okay? Very important to have the prostate tests done, because you can pick that up. And we are seeing an increase in male prostate cancer at the moment, even male breast cancer. So men should also be doing breast checks. Headaches that are there all the time, or headaches that are getting more severe, always good then to have an MRI to check the brain, okay? Because we are seeing an increase in brain cancers as well. So as I said, it depends. You can't get panicky and now test everything, okay? It's going to cost you a fortune. But if you are getting signs and symptoms somewhere, get it checked, and also do your own self checks, your breast check, go to your gynae every second year, get your checks done, do your gastroscope and your colonoscopies. Those are the main cancers that you can protect against. And, if you're coughing a lot, go and get an x-ray, okay? X-rays are actually not that expensive to go, even if you don't have medical aid, to get an x-ray of your lungs, see if there's something on, because we do live in South Africa. We lose 70,000 people a year to TB. Okay, it's and you think, okay, well, it only affects a certain, group. It doesn't actually. We could be standing in the line of, spa, and someone coughs on you and your immune system's a bit run down because you're stressed or you've been sick, and you can get that TB, okay? So it spreads as easily as COVID. So if you're coughing a lot, also get it checked out as well. So I hope that helps with that question.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Kylie. I think for the purpose of time, I know you had some nice information you wanted to share on nutrition. Could we cover that, and then we can get to the balance of the questions?
Sure. So I think we covered some of the hormonal ones, and the stress we've talked about a lot in our questions. So here's our health and nutrition. So I have certain basic rules of nutrition, which I think I don't like this, oh, eat this many proteins and this many carbohydrates. I like balance, okay? We are seeing how dangerous these high protein diets are with kidney health, with long-term health. They are not healthy, okay? The diets that are endorsed by the medical profession are the DASH diets and the Mediterranean diet, which are like balanced with everything. Eat lots of fruits, vegetables, grains, a little bit of meat, and a lot of fish. That is a healthy diet, okay? Eating high levels of fat and meat will help you lose weight, but long term, it's not a healthy endeavor. So I'm going to like to take it back to basics. What we put in our mouth is vital. It affects everything. If you put the wrong fuel in your car, it's going to break down. So we are all under stress. There's no doubt about it. People are carrying stress from COVID. We still have post-traumatic stress from COVID. The pace of living is insane. We are dealing with a lot of other problems, that are worrying us. We have children that we worry about. So if we're not fueling our body to deal with this, we're going to have problems. So studies have actually shown that junk food not only weakens your immune system, it actually depletes your serotonin levels, which is your happy hormone. So now I know when we're feeling stressed, we go for junk food, but you're actually doing yourself a huge disservice, because eating junk food makes you less able to deal with stress. And we're seeing a high increase of children with like high stress levels, children that are not thriving, mental health conditions, and we're feeding them junk. We need to also feed our children healthily. A bit of junk food once a week is fine, but when it is daily junk food, we're going to have a problem, okay? The other trick is eat what's in season. Nature knows what you need, okay? In winter, it gives us green and orange fruits and vegetables. Why? Because they're full of vitamin B, zinc, and vitamin C, which boost our immune system. So at the moment, you see the oranges, the naartjies, the like grapefruits, the lemons, because they boost your immune system. In summer, we get all the juicy sweet fruit, the watermelons, the grapes, the lychees, because nature knows we need energy and we need hydration. So it gives us juicy sweet fruit. Buy what's in season. Nature knows what you need. Also, it's cheaper. So if we are like, trying to save money or work to a budget, if you're buying foreign imported food because it's out of season, firstly, it's not what your body needs right now. And secondly, it's going to cost you money. Look at the price of an avo in season and out of season. 50 Rand for one avo when it's out of season, and 50 Rand for a packet of avos in season. So, support your health and your budget by eating what's in season. And then drink your water. So we underestimate the power of water, especially in winter. Our whole respiratory system is lined by mucus. Now, that mucus has a very important role to play. Whenever we breathe in dust, pollen, germs, that mucus lining traps it and moves it out of our body so it can't cause allergies, sickness, pneumonia, flu. But if that mucus lining is dry because we haven't drunk enough water and we're living on cup of soup and coffee, what happens? It dries out, it gets cracks, and the viruses get in. So it's like having a brick wall with a gap, so all the robbers can come in and attack you. It's like having a gap in that respiratory lining. All the viruses can get in and attack you. Drink your water. And they always say 8 glasses a day. But if I weigh 40 kilos and you weigh 80, why must we drink the same amount? So take your weight, divide by 10. That's how many 250 ml glasses you must drink a day, okay? That is, so if you're 80 kilos, divide by 10, 8 250 ml glasses, 2 liters, okay? 60 kilos, 6 glasses, 1.5 liters. And then take your vitamins. So we definitely need a bit of support. I do think the most important, vitamin B, which is for stress, energy, and for immunity, taken in the morning to give you energy. And then in the evening, magnesium and zinc. Very important for boosting the immune system. And zinc is like a super mineral. It protects your immune system, your hair, skin, nails, your libido, and your immunity. So a very important one. You'll see, I mean, us as women know, in winter, our hair doesn't look as great, our nails don't look so great, our skin looks dry and cracked, and zinc helps with that. For men, it's actually they get premature graying and balding when they don't have enough zinc, and stress depletes zinc, okay? So in winter, when all our zinc is being used for immunity, the other systems suffer. Also, when zinc is low, we can't perform in the bedroom. Like men get erectile dysfunction, impotence. So they always joke, if you go on a hot date, you should eat oysters because they're high in zinc, okay? So important that. And then lastly, our sleep and our sunshine. Very important to get enough sleep. Our whole system recovers. Our hormones settle down at sleep. They regenerate. Wounds heal while we sleep. Our endorphins, and our stress levels get resettled. If you go into a day with less sleep, you are much more stressed and anxious. So also some tips for sleeping. Make sure that when you've got the TV on or your laptop or phone, you switch off or you switch on the blue light function, because you switch off the blue light function because blue light actually gets into your eyes and makes your brain think that it's morning, because it simulates the blue light of the morning. And then what happens? Your brain releases energizing hormones and makes you think that it's, morning, and it doesn't let you sleep. So if you switch that off, you need to actually get, it's like almost a red filter that comes through, which simulates evening light, which allows your body to release melatonin for sleep. And then sunshine. All our problems in Africa, sun is not one of them, okay? So getting 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night boosts your vitamin D, which we need for immunity, we need for bone health, we need for brain health. So just 10 minutes in the morning and the evening. It also helps with better sleep, because if you get 10 minutes in the morning, your brain sees the blue light, which energizes you. And in the evening, it sees the sunset, which is that orange, yellow, red light, and it releases melatonin for sleep. It also can reduce pain, by the way. Getting more sunlight helps lower cholesterol. So it's really important to do that, okay? So I see our time is up, but if anyone wants to stay on, I'm very happy to, stay on and listen to all the, and answer the questions that are in the chat box, which is still not moving over for me. So is everyone okay to stay on and answer some questions? Amy?
Great. So I think, for those of you that have to hop off, thank you very much for your time. But I think we will take some questions for those of you that have posted. The first question, sorry, just bear with me. What is the best way to lower estrogen levels to help with irregular periods and especially hirsutism? I've tried contraceptives, but it does not help.
So lowering estrogen is quite a complicated, we have to also look at what the progesterone levels are. What I'm going to do, I can't chat in the for whatever reason, I can't get my chat box over again. It's stuck here, but I'll give my email address. There's a brilliant doctor who will check everything, balance it, and then give you something to lower it. That is not going to damage the other systems. He's quite brilliant. He specializes in female endocrine disorders, and he's really brilliant. He'll even do virtual consults if you need to. His name's Dr. Gijs, but I will send all those details to the best way is to do all the tests, see what's causing that higher estrogen, because there may be a reason. It may be from an overactive ovary or an overactive thyroid. So we need to look at some of the others. It can't be just dropping the estrogen. It may affect something else. So what I'll do is get Amy to just type my email address in the chat box. You're more than welcome to message me, and I can guide you a bit further with that one.
Great, we'll definitely do that. The next question, can premenopause impact a woman's stress and anxiety levels due to hormonal imbalance?
So 100%. So it's quite funny because when I missed 2 periods, and because I was on the pill, it masked that I was in perimenopause for 2 years. So when I missed 2 periods and I was still on the pill, I went and had my hormones checked, and my levels were so low that the doctors, and I also knew, I must have been in menopause for at least 2 years. Now, I've been commuting for work for the last 2 years. So I put all my stress levels and anxiety down to the move. But I realized actually my internal irritability and my feelings of being overwhelmed and overstressed was actually linked with the menopause. And there's so many studies that show estrogen actually is a buffer for our stress. When our estrogen levels are normal and that, we cope with stress better. But before our periods, like with PMS, estrogen dips, and that's why a lot of women before their periods are ratty, irritable, moody, stressed out, because estrogen dips. So now think about it. We're going into menopause, the estrogen is dropping off completely. So it has a huge impact on our mood. I do a menopause talk, which is an hour long, just on the menopause, about how estrogen affects the mood significantly. It can make you teary, it can make you angry, it can make you ratty, it can make you feel like you are overwhelmed. So that's why I always say, I am a big believer in, we always think HRT is just to protect you from osteoporosis, but HRT helps with the mood swings. It helps with the vaginal dryness. It helps with the, sex drive. It helps with your ability. With me also, I found brain fog. Like I just couldn't concentrate properly. I had to write everything down because it was like all my ducks were running crazy. Like I couldn't get them back in a row. They were jumping all over the place. I just felt completely like nothing was in control and that my brain wasn't working properly. And since I started taking the medication, and bear in mind, I'm a cancer survivor, so I actually used to be anti-HRT. And I realized that we get it so wrong. And even my gynecologist said to me, Kylie, we do one module on HRT. One module, so one chapter on HRT. He says, we are not the experts in HRT. You should go to an endocrinologist. They do the testing for you, and based on your specific makeup and your history, they put you on the right HRT for you, either a combined one, which is progesterone and estrogen, or if you've got cancer in your system, just the progesterone with a different type of estrogen, which is not cancer, affecting. So yes, 100% perimenopause and menopause can lead to mood changes, inability to concentrate. So very important. Estrogen is protective for a lot of things, for your heart as well. So if you found when you went, I've got heart disease in the family. So when I hit menopause, my cholesterol skyrocketed. It jumped up from 5.8 to 7.3. Okay, so completely crazy. So, the HRT protects your heart, your bones, your skin. So when you hit menopause, you age quicker, okay? So the estrogen keeps your skin plump and youthful looking. The minute we lose it, we lose that. And I also used to say, I know we joke about it, but I felt like internally like I was dry, scratchy grass. And now that I've started to take the vaginal estrogen and the other estrogen, I feel like it's like velvety again inside. So, and that was important to me. Like my partner and me have a very good sex life, and now I was like anxious about having sex because it was painful, and I couldn't understand this. It was like I just thought, well, and I also was getting those hot flushes, but I'm like, okay, well, I'm in Durban a lot, maybe that's why I'm so hot. So it's so funny that even as a healthcare practitioner myself, where I used to do talks on menopause, I didn't recognize the symptoms in myself. We always put it down to other things. So I put the anxiety down to stress of travel. I put the heat stuff down to, being in Durban. I also went and put the bladder infections I was getting to, oh, I'm swimming in the dirty sea. And I'm like, wow, now it all makes sense. But back then I'm like, okay, put it down to everything else. And that's what us women do. We tend to find reasons for the problems instead of actually addressing them sometimes. But thank you for that question. That was awesome.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Kylie. The next question is, should you be worried if your stool is dark green?
So dark green stools means there's something going on with your bowel, with your liver and your bowel duct. So yes, I would get it checked out. Usually if there's green in the stool, there's something going on with your bowel, which could lead to gallstones or so there's something going on there. So I would go get that checked out, yes.
Great,
Unless,
thank you.
of course, you're having spirulina or you're having those green shakes, that have they're bright green, then that also sometimes comes out. But if you aren't doing that, then yes, get it checked out.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Is it true that a malignant lump in the breast is usually not painful?
No, I don't know where people came with that. It's like it can be painful and it can be not painful. It just depends, okay, how close it is to a nerve supply. So depending on where that lump is, it may or may not be painful. But I've been asked this question a lot in my breast cancer presentations. People say, okay, well, if it's sore, it's not cancerous. No, it can be both painful or not painful. If there's a lump in the breast, you get it checked out. And please also understand that all of us have different breasts. When you feel your breast, if you've got smaller breasts and you like are quite an active person, you may feel like nodules, almost like your breast is nodular. And there are women with large breasts who have like scar tissue underneath their breast from the underwire bras. And when they feel their like breast, it's like, oh my gosh, I have a massive lump. You need to, as I said, get familiar with your own breast. Go to the doctor, get them to do a breast exam and say, okay, everything's fine. And then feel your own breast. Say, oh, okay, I do have some nodules here, lumps and bumps here and there. But when there's a new one, you need to check it out. But it doesn't mean just because it's painful, it's not cancerous, or just because it's painful, it's not cancerous. If there's a lump, you get it checked out. Don't ever leave it, okay? Rather be safe than sorry.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Next question. What could be causing excessive urination during the night for an 80-year-old with type 2 diabetes? And what can be taken to manage the problem?
I was just going to say excessive urination at night is diabetes. So I think you need to check if her diabetes is under control. Maybe it's a bit out of control. Also, in an 80-year-old, you sometimes get prolapse of the bladder. So the bladder almost like drops down, which can cause that because the pelvic floor gets weak. So in an 80-year-old with diabetes, yes, definitely the frequent urination is part of the diabetes. So we need to first check that that's still under control. And then I would also like go and see a gynecologist to see if there's any prolapse of the bladder, because sometimes in older people you get a drop down of the bladder, which then pushes on the urethra, making you feel like you need to urinate more often. So, and the excessive urination is definitely the diabetes. It's a specific type of diabetes, that nocturnal urination. So I would say first and foremost, get checked that the diabetes is still under control.
Great.
Thanks.
Next question. If you've had a full hysterectomy, what should one look out for, especially if you are on hormone replacement therapy?
So usually if you've had a full hysterectomy and you're on hormone replacement, you actually perfectly fine. I mean, just make sure the hormones are working well for you. If you're starting to feel that like your mood swings are really bad or you're gaining weight, the thing is people always think if you go on to, when you hit menopause, you gain weight. But a lot of women who gain weight is because they're not on HRT. The estrogen actually keeps your weight under control. So if you are on a full hysterectomy and you're on HRT, just make sure that everything is staying at like, just be cautious of anything that like seems out of the ordinary, like sudden weight gain or mood swings or anything that's not under, that's not normal. But with the full hysterectomy, usually most of your problems go away. Actually, there's like no risk of cancers down there. There's usually a much lower risk of breast cancer. So, yeah, I don't think you need to really worry about anything. Just making sure that the hormones you are on are the right ones for you and you're not having weight gain or any abnormal emotional symptoms either. So, and also just do your bone density tests as well, just to check that the bone density is fine too. So, but other than that, there's nothing really to worry about that much.
Okay, great. How would you know what is the best vitamins, as they can be very costly?
That's why I said I think vitamin B everyone needs because it supports your stress, your immune, and your energy systems. And most people are short on magnesium and zinc. So those two are, and vitamin D. A lot of people are lacking vitamin D. So those are the ones I think are the best. But if you find that you are generally healthy and well and your energies are quite good, then like one supplement like a Centrum A to Z would be sufficient, you know. But I think sometimes with vitamins, the best thing to do is talk to like a nutritionist or something and see where your areas of like dysfunction are. So are your energy levels bad? Do you get cramps? Do you like crave certain things? It's always good. You have to do like rather go and see a dietitian, do a full like workup with them about like where you may be lacking, what you eat, and then they can tell you based on what you eat, what you may be missing. Okay. With vitamins, there's not a one size fits all. But I usually say if you're eating quite well, you've got fruits and vegetables in your diet and a variety of colors of fruits and vegetables. So you're getting all the different colors in, you're getting something from like the robot colors, the red, the orange and yellow and the green. If you're getting something from each of those groups every day, you usually are getting sufficient vitamins and minerals. But if you are lacking in certain ways, speak to someone, do a workup, and maybe they can say, okay, it looks like you may need extra magnesium, you may need extra potassium, you know, based on, you know, a more in-depth analysis.
Just following on from that, what form of magnesium would you recommend?
So I still think Slow Mag is a very good product, okay? It's also very reasonably priced. It's been on the market for a long time. I know when I take it myself, I don't get the cramps, and when I do, and magnesium is also great because if you get constipated, taking magnesium in the morning helps with constipation too. So I think Slow Mag is one of the best ones, and it's like also reasonably priced compared to some of these others that are being promoted at the moment. Slowmag is tried and trusted, so I think Slowmag is a good one. If you battle with heartburn or you have any ulcers or bloating or that, don't have the fizzy one, just have the tablets, okay?
Sorry, Dr. Kylie, there are quite a few questions, so I hope you still have some time for us.
Yeah, no, I'm good until
Um,
10:30. That's fine.
okay, great. What tips can you help with can help with sleeping, especially if you struggle to switch your mind off?
So firstly, as I said, make sure that that blue light function is switched off on all your devices, okay? Because if you're on them at night and that blue light is in your eyes, it's going to prevent you from like settling down, so to speak. The other thing is if you're watching TV at night to like de-stress, make sure what you're watching is light-hearted, not something with lots of action and lots of noise and movement. So if you like watching police program or you know like a military program and there's shooting and there's banging and there's movements, it actually adrenalizes your system, making it harder for you to settle down. But if you watch something, especially something that makes you laugh, it releases endorphins, which are nice relaxing stress relieving hormones, and that helps with sleep. Also at night, if you could take like a Horlicks or hot milk. There's something in like hot milk that has been shown to just like calm the nervous system a bit. That works. Magnesium and zinc at night also help calm the mind a little. Magnesium is actually known as the stress tonic. It like wraps your stress in cotton wool and protects it. So magnesium helps slow down the brain a little as well. So those sort of things help. Also make sure that you're comfortable temperature wise. If you're too hot, you don't sleep well. If you're too cold, you don't sleep well. So get comfortable. Also, make sure you don't have your phone next to you and you're looking at it before bed, okay? Or go to the toilet and look at the time on your phone. It definitely disrupts it because that blue light is in your face. And also then you like see a message and you look at it, it like undoes your relaxation. So those tips help, just like, you know, calmer movies at night. And I always think like reading a book that just then can take your mind off, you know, your worries, because then when you go to bed, rather like be thinking of what you read in your book, then thinking about what your worries are. Something else that also works is to put a little diary next to your bed. And if you're lying in bed and a million thoughts are running through your head about what you have to do tomorrow, write them down. Once you've written them down, the brain's like, okay, I can switch off because I won't forget. It really does work. It's a powerful technique. So if your problem with sleeping is that in your head you're running through all the things you have to do tomorrow, put the notebook next to your bed, write them down. It's actually your brain, your body actually sees that as, okay, it's dealt with, I can sleep. So try those and see how that goes. There's also something called, it's a natural sleep thing you can get at Dischem. It also helps a bit. It's got valerian root in it. Anything with valerian root helps calm the mind a little before sleep.
Great. Next question is around HPV. You mentioned that it is transferred from mother to child. If I've been diagnosed with HPV, the chances are that my daughter will have it too. Will it then be ideal to have her get the vaccine? She's 6 years old.
Okay, it's a bit young for a 6-year-old, and to be honest, at 6, HPV is not going to affect her, and sometimes the immune system can fight it off naturally anyway. But when she hits 12, then get her vaccinated regardless. So I think all of our young girls should be vaccinated for HPV. Boys as well can have it because the thing is they tend to be the carriers of it. So yeah, get her vaccinated then. I wouldn't worry about, even if she's got it now at 6, it's not going to have any like a physical or health problem. But at 12, when they're old enough to do it, then you can have it done.
Thank you. If you've had a hysterectomy, is estrogen compulsory? Is it a must?
You know what? No, it's not a must. I mean, you can definitely, well, it depends how young you had the hysterectomy. If you like had the hysterectomy before 40, I would say yes, definitely. Estrogen is very protective from a lot of ways. It also, it protects the bones, it protects the heart. It also prevents early aging and complications. So if you had a hysterectomy early, like before 40, I would say yes, definitely. Also for, vaginal health and, sexual health, it is important. Even if you're just doing vaginal estrogen, where you put the tablets inside, or a vaginal cream, that you definitely need. But if you're older and you feel like you're not having any symptoms and you don't really need it, you don't have to have it. It's just estrogen is quite a supportive hormone for women's health. But if you are feeling perfectly fine and you don't have any hot flashes, you don't have any history of family, heart disease, your moods are stable, then no, you don't have to have it. It's like maybe just take like that menopause support, the natural one, just to like give you a little bit of the vitamins and minerals that support when you don't have estrogen. You can do like the wild yam or something like that, and that will be sufficient, but I think if you have got heart disease in your family, also do a bone density test just to check that you're looking after your bones as well and they're not suffering. But other than that, no, it's not compulsory, definitely not.
Great. And there's another question asking, what is HRT?
Oh, hormone replacement therapy. Sorry about that. So that's like once you've had menopause, they like to, a lot of the time, they want to give you hormone replacement therapy because our progesterone drops and our estrogen drops. So the hormone replacement therapy then gives you back the hormones that you no longer have, just to support certain systems. It's not like it's going to bring your periods back. It just like supports you enough that you don't get side effects from the lack of estrogen and progesterone. Thanks for that. Sorry, I didn't even realize. I thought I had said hormone replacement therapy first and then called it HRT. So sorry about that.
No problem. How does one know they are going through menopause if they've already had a hysterectomy?
Oh, if you've had once you've had a hysterectomy, you are in menopause. Oh, wait, sorry, I need to qualify. If you had a hysterectomy with a full hysterectomy where your ovaries were taken out, then from that day you are in menopause, okay, because you're not producing any hormones. If you had a hysterectomy which was partial and they left the ovaries in, You'll know you're going through menopause if you start getting symptom changes like the hot flashes, like you start feeling like you suddenly get overly hot. With me, if I don't get bad hot flashes, smaller people don't get them as bad. But if I drink a cup of tea, then I need to like get naked because I'm like, oh, now I'm too hot. And sometimes in bed, especially in bed at night, the first half of the night, you'll want to throw all the covers off, and then later on, you'll feel cold. So these hot flashes are often most women get them in menopause. If you notice your moods are changing, you're a bit more ratty, you're getting more headaches. You may also be just feeling more emotional than normal, feeling a bit like you're not coping with stress. Those could all be signs and symptoms that now you are going to menopause, because you obviously, if you had a hysterectomy and they removed the uterus, you're not going to be getting periods anyway. But if the ovaries were left in, once they stop producing the hormone, you may start getting those menopausal symptoms. Thanks for that. Very good question.
Thanks. And can menopause start as early as 40?
Yes, so that's what we'd call like early-ish menopause. Most women average age is 51, but we are seeing that women between 45 and 55 is the normal age for menopause, okay? At 40, it is early, but I've got a few friends who started menopause early. So one at 38, one at 42. So it's not, it's outside of the normal parameters, but we are seeing a lot more early menopause that's been brought on by stress, or women who generally have low estrogen. So my menopause also started quite early, but my period started very late. So I've always had quite low estrogen, and they suspected that I'd probably go into menopause earlier. So 40 is a bit early, but it's not unheard of, okay? But at 40, I do think, especially if it's that early, you should look into like getting the hormones tested and looked after, so that we can make sure you don't get side effects from being in menopause for such a long period of your life. Anything else?
Thanks, Dr. Kali. There are a few other questions, but I think we are pressed for time. I think what we can do is maybe we'll send the questions through to you and you can answer them and we can share it with the team. But yeah, so thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone for staying on. Dr. Kylie, there's also a lot of thank yous and a lot of grateful messages for you on the chat, finding the session very insightful. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone for staying on. Just remember to make yourself and your health and wellness a priority. If you have any questions about your medical scheme benefits, please chat to your NMG consultants about how you can best utilize the benefits that are available to you to have some of these checks. And yeah, have a lovely weekend, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you, Dr. Kylie.
My pleasure. Have an awesome weekend, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.